Contrary to popular belief, estrogen is actually good, like for men.
Let's go.
It's good for men. Not only does it give you more male beauty, as in aesthetics to do with your like skin health, your eye health in fact, and even your hair health, your bones and your cardiovascular health, all of those things together, it's important to make sure your estrogen is optimized. Because if it is too high, then you have an extreme high libido and your monkey doesn't even work down there. And if it's too low, then you don't even have an interest in women. But of course, you're able to have like your erection quality, but you're just it's like looking at a table. It's like it doesn't do anything for you, but it's mega important for you to actually optimize your estrogen levels. And I've made a video about the actual bad things about having super high estrogen levels or super low estrogen levels. So in this video, you're going to understand how to actually optimize your estrogen levels so that you can experience, the male aesthetics and vitality that it takes when you have when you are fully hormonally optimized. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is xenoestrogens and phytoestrogens. Essentially what these are is estrogenics. Now, phytoestrogens are not necessarily bad. What a phytoestrogen is like things like soy and flax and corn, things that kind of can mimic estrogen within the body because when you eat them, they produce estrogen mimicking compounds. But what you really want to be careful of is xenoestrogens. Xenoestrogens are man-made compounds that when the body comes in contact with, they can be absorbed through your skin, and your skin is like the largest endocrine organ of your body. And what happens is you absorb these chemicals like BPA, like phthalates, like PFAS, forever chemicals, things that modulate estrogen within the body and interfere with your estrogen signaling. What can happen because of this is because it looks like you have higher estrogen levels than you really do have. It can decrease your testosterone levels. So as a man, most of our estrogen comes from our testosterone. This is because our testosterone aromatizes into estradiol, and that is the main way we get our estrogen. However, if our estrogen signaling is being interfered with xenoestrogens or even phytoestrogens, what can happen is our testosterone negative feedback gets downregulated, and that's pretty bad because now we have less testosterone levels and we actually have our hormones completely disrupted. So we really don't want to have BPA. BPA is an endocrine disruptor. It is bisphenol A. And basically it's some things that plastics have been coated with so that they don't stick together and they're more heat safe. Things like receipts. Another example would be with PFAS, forever chemicals, like raincoats. A lot of raincoats, they're non-stick, right? And a lot of pans that you cook with are non-stick as well. So I would stick to a cast iron pan or a stainless steel pan. Those are the very, very best ones. So make sure you stay away from chemicals completely in general because those are not what you want. Other thing is you might have heard before that soy is bad for you. Well, is soy actually bad for you? Well, not necessarily, but what happens is like these phytoestrogens are not necessarily bad. They can actually aid your heart health, your brain health. However, things like soy and flax, the ones that have really powerful estrogen, phytoestrogen content, because it's a spectrum, they can interfere with your androgen receptor sensitivity and density. So what that means is your androgen receptors are the acceptors of testosterone. And they're most concentrated in your chest, traps, and shoulders. So if you don't have sensitive androgen receptors, you can't even use the testosterone you really have. And so with phytoestrogens, if you're consuming more phytoestrogens like soy, flax, corn, those things, the really powerful ones, what can happen is your gut starts to produce more estrogen mimicking compounds like equal, more powerful than estradiol. And we really don't want that because then our testosterone negative feedback can get down-regulated. And all of that together is pretty bad. So we want to stay away from xenoestrogens, and in times where we're really optimizing to have like less estrogen in our body, we want to stay away from things like flax and soy. Those are the main ones. The main ones are flax and soy, but we want to stay away from those. But what are the things you can actually do to balance your estrogen levels? So we mentioned before that most of your estrogen actually comes from your testosterone. And how does that actually happen? Well, Your fat tissue, your adipose tissue, carries an enzyme called aromatase. And aromatase is the enzyme that converts testosterone into estradiol. Because of that, if we have higher body fat percentage, like let's say greater than 20% body fat, that is actually worse for our testosterone as men. What we want to avoid is we want to avoid having greater than 20% levels of body fat percentage, because we have higher aromatase levels and more of our testosterone will be converted into estradiol, which will downregulate our testosterone negative feedback. And we really don't want that, because testosterone can help with health, vitality, competitiveness, making sure you're more goal striving, building muscle quicker, and being able to get your strength much higher as well. So the optimal range for body fat percentage will be 10 to 15% body fat. At this range, you have the perfect levels of testosterone. Anything less than 10% is actually worse for you, because the testosterone, the steroid hormones, they're made from fats. They're made from lipids, and so if we don't have enough fats to actually support our endocrine system, all of our sex hormones, then we won't be able to actually have enough. It's like if you're trying to make a house, but you don't have any bricks or any wood. So that's a problem. The other thing is, of course, we can avoid long-term soy and flax intake. We already talked about that. And another thing is, we can talk about natural aromatase inhibitors. Cruciferous veggies, things like broccoli, things like kale, not only do they have good levels of zinc and micronutrients, but they also have compounds called diindolylmethane. And this diindolylmethane is actually an aromatase blocker. It's an aromatase inhibitor. So we can have greater testosterone levels by mitigating our conversion to estrogen. And so higher testosterone levels, greater baseline, less estrogen. And of course, I have to mention sleep 7 to 9 hours. Of course, 9 hours is probably better. And okay, so basically, ditch plastics. Don't use a non-stick pan. Make sure to use a cast iron pan or a stainless steel pan. That's good. Avoid soy and flax, and have your body fat percentage at 10 to 15% body fat. That's pretty good. And remember, if you're bulking, you might take a hit to your hormones. Again, if you're cutting extreme, you might take a hit to your hormones. The key is balance. So 10 to 15% body fat. You'll look aesthetic, you'll look lean, and you should be great around that area. If you would like to optimize your hormonal health and see the fullest extent of your genetic potential, bench 325 pounds like myself, squat 405, and be connected with a community of other young men who are like-minded and are disciplined, consistent, and continuing to improve themselves every single day, then join my program, link in description. Like the video, bro.